seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, it's the Monday Club. We are back. The Boyce'S brothers on the scheduled day. The Monday Club on a Monday. It'll never catch on, Jonathan, but here we are. We will do the Monday Club on a Monday for a wee change. Loads to look forward to, loads to discuss as always. That transfer rumour mill is really it's in full swing now, Jonathan, with a couple of surprises. And we'll be talking about that. I know, in fact, some of you might be watching and going, all he does is talk too much. I mean, we've done so many hours over the weekend. I mean, I've still got plenty to say, but I mean, fucking hell, folk must be like, fucking hell, shut. Someone put 10 pence on him and shut him up, you know what I mean? But anyway, here we are. Jonathan, we're still 9 points clear. We're still in a good place. You were at the game. Take it away for the Monday opening.
Yes, well, it was a great game to have been. It's been quite a great week, really, in general, across the bus, Russell, when you kind of look at things. We had Steve-O make his debut yesterday, made a very impressive impact on the bus. You did your longest post-match pish segment, I think, ever, clocking in at 3 hours. Very impressive stuff. The most impressive thing, though, Judgment Day did indeed arrive last week with Judge Kearney, another fabulous addition to the show. But today isn't about Judgment Day, Russell. Today is your day of reckoning, because I have won the last 4 weeks of sudden death, and in approximately 45 minutes time, history will be made on the bus, because I will be taking the lead for the first time ever on sudden death. And much like Celtic's performance, by the way, on Sunday, it was a very slow start from myself, much like Celtic. But then the second half comes along and Celtic get going. They get themselves 2-0 up. Should have been 5 or 6. It's almost running identical to what is going to happen in sudden death later tonight. And I, for one, can't wait to discuss it.
I love it. I don't know why I mimic your face when you're doing it. I just get that invested in the Monday opening now. I'm like, I'm pulling mad faces as well. Very good, Jonathan. Very good. But, yeah, we'll see what happens, mate. We'll see if I've just let you back in, to keep the viewers happy.
You're not sounding as confident as you usually do. Where's the confidence? Where's the swagger gone, Russell?
We'll see, mate. We'll see. Do you know what I mean? We'll see. We will see, mate. I'm not very confident, mate. I was born confident. Jono's getting too smug. See? Gary Brown, who wound him up. It's just a wee bit of a hype job we do on a Monday now. Jonathan gets the opening segment, Gary, and he just goes for it. It's a wee bit of banter. That's what it's all about. But yes, Jonathan, you're right to highlight a few of the successes of the bus, because it's been one hell of a weekend. Steve O'Mac yesterday, by the way, take a bow, son. That was very good.
Excellent,
Someone would say now an AJ comparison, because that's pretty funny. He's bloody annoyingly better looking than me, Jonathan, but his partner was very good. He was on point, and we'll see more of Steve O'Mac in the coming weeks. Judgment Day, as you say, last week was a roaring success, and O'Mac's sunning it up right now on holiday with his wife. So hopefully we'll get one of them done this week as well, because I know how much you enjoyed it and how much the viewers enjoyed it. And I'm thinking actually this weekend, Jonathan, 5:30, I'm thinking Fan Cam Live.
Wow.
Fan Cam Live. Yeah, it's been a while.
Saturday night on the bus, Christ. Make sure you're well seatbelted in for that one.
Yeah,
that will be a rocky journey.
I'm a half day, so fuck it. Patrick McLaughlin wants to know where I got the Zippy. I just bought it on eBay about 7-8 years old. I just remember seeing Zlatan sitting. I think he'd came off. I'm sure he started for Sweden. And I was like, what is he wearing? That's the smartest substitutes jacket I've ever seen. Just Googled it. Bought it, 50 quid, done. So I've just kept it in good nick because I've got hunters. So I very rarely wear them. They're all on a squad rotation policy. A bit like some players at Celtic, But this is more of a Tony Ralston than an Eddie Gucci. Put it that way.
It's not get shipped off to Mitchyland, is it, after tonight?
Absolutely not. I don't think this would be welcome in Denmark, Jonathan.
No, probably not.
No. But we'll get all that good stuff out the way as well, guys. Let's get all that good stuff out the road. Please. There's 82 of you live already on the Monday night, original Monday night Celtic podcast. The original and best, Jonathan, I like to say. But I was watching it there, by the way, and they were fucking brilliant, by the way. I really enjoyed it, to be fair. I know there's another one that's on, but, 2.5 likes, whatever. Rock on. But, Jonathan, we need to do all that good stuff, so we will do it. Hit the like button. Get us all that traction with the algorithm and all that carry on. If you've not hit subscribe yet, what are you doing? Because 3,235 have hit the subscribe button in the last 13 months. So get involved. If you want to share this on your social media, always appreciated. Or if you want to become a Boyce'S bus member, bizarrely like Phil McGinley still is. Scott Howe is a Boyce'S bus member. Patrick McLaughlin is as well. So is Gary Brown. So is Paul Dyatt. I'm just picking the most recent ones in the comments. But there's loads of you who have done that. It does help the channel. It supports us. It keeps the wheels on the road. So is Kevin 14. And yes, we do appreciate it. But of course, completely optional. Cost of living and all that. It might be $1.99 you don't want to spend. Hey, listen, we're just glad of your company. It all works the same way. Jonathan, let's talk Celtic. Okay. So, you were at the game. Takeaways from the game. I'm not going to give any more input on what I thought of the match, Jonathan, other than I'll tee you up. It was a game of two halves.
Yeah, no, it certainly was. I think, first half was a bit of a non-event, really. I think if it went in at 0-0 at half-time, there couldn't have been too many complaints. Didn't really do an awful lot. The goal just before half-time totally changes the dynamics going into the half-time team talks. And I think Ange still reads a bit of a riot act on the players because I think they needed it. They weren't really at the pace I was expecting. I kind of thought going to the game, it was going to be one of those games where Celtic turned up and it was going to be like a convincing 5 or 6-0. I was feeling very confident beforehand there was going to be a bit of a backlash from the game at Ibrox because, as I say, last week I didn't think Celtic really turned up at Ibrox as well as they are capable of, despite getting a decent result in the end. Second half, though, they came at the traps flying and, they were very good going forward. They should have probably had 3 or 4 more than they did. They're very unlucky with a few hitting the woodwork. And they kind of just showed us and reminded us of what Celtic have been about in so many games this season. And pretty much put in the sort of performance that I was expecting more from minute 1 rather from minute 45. And when you put together that sort of second half performance, it does breed confidence. Celtic have quite a number of home games coming up over the next few weeks in the league. to try and, pull away, which I think they might even do further than they already are at the moment in terms of that 9-point gap. And it's all looking fairly rosy. So I wouldn't read too much into the first half. Yes, it was below par, but they did manage to fix it. The substitutions actually worked. I didn't think we got an awful lot wrong from Postecoglou this week. I thought there was a few things wrong last week at Ibrox, but I think what we corrected whatever was lacking in that first half through the substitutions, and I think Celtic went on to win the game comfortably, and we're probably unfortunate to only win it 2-0.
Well, Jonathan, I was blushing today because I think he listens to on the audio downloads, and our audio downloads, by the way, over the weekend. Massive thanks to all you who are listening on the Spotify's and all that, by the way, because we've hit 280 downloads in the last 2 days, which some podcasts might get 10 times that. I really don't know. But for us, that's a hell of a lot. So a big thanks to you. But I suspect there's a P asterisk. I'm guess his first name's, Phil, Paul, Pete. Who knows? Delete where appropriate. But Mr. McQueen quoted a comment I'd made. I can't even remember saying it, to be honest. But I said, football will beat whatever it is Derek McInnes is trying to do, Jonathan, because I've never seen a manager to have played us as many times. Think how many times he's came up against Celtic in the last sort of decade, right?
Oh, more than any other manager in
I
the
would
league
say
by
so.
a country mile.
So tell me how many times you would honestly say he set up a team to actively try and beat us.
It doesn't happen very often. I think
I can't think of one.
Perhaps when I think he was still Aberdeen manager when Dyla was there, he might have had a bit more of a go then because Aberdeen were challenging a little bit more for the title back then. He maybe felt he had to have a bit more of a go. But you're right. When the push comes to shove with McInnes, he always tends to set up his team the same way, and that is to somehow try and get a 0-0 win. I don't even call it a 0-0 draw for McInnes. I think he thinks that is a win in his book. He doesn't seem to understand.
Defeat.
He doesn't seem to understand the point of football is to actually score goals. I think he seems to just think if he can manage to keep a clean sheet, then that counts as a win in his book in these big games. And it's baffling because he tries his tactics so many times over recent years, and I genuinely can't remember the last time he got a win against us. You're probably going back to the Aberdeen days when it was Johnny Hayes in his first spell scored, and that's like 2014, 2015, something like that. He's not had an awful lot of success, certainly in recent years. There is question marks as to whether he feels, whether you feel he should be changing his approach. Celtic can only, of course, deal with what they're up against. It actually makes it very easy for us to play because everyone in their dog knew that Derek McInnes would set up like that, which means there was going to be no curveballs there. He's probably the most predictable manager in the league in that sense.
You spoke, Jonathan, about Ange maybe having a rollicking at half-time or something. Now, I find that an interesting concept because from what we've read over the past 32, often I don't think Ange is all that vocal before kick-off. No. Or at half-time. I know, put it this way, if he does do a team talk, Celtic have a camera positioned pretty cleverly to get it all videoed and posted on social media, right? But, I find it intriguing that you think that, maybe he's been giving them a rollicking. I'm not sure if I see it as that. I don't know if the players have done it themselves. I mean, I would imagine a Callum McGregor going, honestly, lads, I've seen this shite a million times. They're not here to play football. We need to be more cutting. We need to be more intense with the passing. I think it'd be more Callum McGregor led. I could be wrong, but that's the way I see it. I think from Ange's point of view, I think at times he just probably is. He marvels at the negativity from managers going, So let me get this right. This is I nearly did his voice there and I pulled out.
Yeah, don't try it.
I know. But I think he marvels at times when he's like, so on one hand, you describe it as a free hit coming to Celtic Park because you're not expected to get anything. But then you play like, protecting your goal is the be-all and end-all. It's so strange. I think he's probably like, surely you take more from it if he's actually have a go against the best team. It's a free hit after all, guys. And I think that sort of thing, I think Ange's found, I think it's one aspect of Ange's characteristics he struggles to relate to. It's a Scottish thing, Jonathan, I think.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I think you've taken out words out of my mouth there. I think, when he looks at it, I was just about to say, you wouldn't see Ange Postecoglou doing that in Europe if Celtic were going, as they did to the Burnabout, for example. Celtic still tried to play football that night, and I don't think it matters who we played in Europe. I think even going forward, Postecoglou will always try and get his team to believe that they can get results. He's not going to be one of these guys who's going to produce what Neil Lennon did at times, or Gordon Strachan did at times, and play a bit more conservatively. I think he's always going to try and get his teams a bit more on the front foot, and at least trying to believe that they can play a bit of possession football against these teams. And it's something that I think Scottish clubs should be trying to adopt if we're going to try and progress the game here, because there's nothing to be gained from the players' point of view and just packing the boxes. And it transfers into the national team. You watch Scotland; they're not a fun team to watch. Scotland, albeit they do get results now under Clark, fair play to them, but you can't turn around and say that the games are particularly good quality to watch even at national level. And I think that's really directly from what goes on in the domestic game too often. I think when Scottish clubs go up against a Celtic or a Rangers and have to come to Ibrox, not many of them really fancy their chances of getting a result. It's almost as if they've got a defeatist attitude before the ball's even been kicked. And that's something I think Postecoglou, you're absolutely spot on. He cannot get his head around, because when he looks at it, he wants his team to go down playing the way that he believes is the right way to play football. And if you lose, you lose, but you at least go down on your sword. Whereas
particularly a free hit.
Although I think for a lot of these other managers, they probably look at it and they actually think, this is pretty much all we know. We don't know any better than to try this. And perhaps there's just a lack of belief in trying something different, and they're terrified of being on the end of a 5 or 6-0 so much that they don't have the courage or conviction to try something else. And I think in some ways, I think when you look at it, Russell, you said 2-0 was if it's been a positive result for him. I don't think he'll have been that harsh at losing that 2-0. I really don't. He'll probably think, that could have been a lot worse. That's how bad I think it is.
Well, he already had his dressing up of it all, Jonathan, already lined up, because, of course, you knew he would say this. This is the best Celtic team I've ever came up against. You knew he was going to say all that shite, right? That's just, and maybe...
Like best team before, and the same as I was said the year before and the year before that, and going all the way back to Brendan Rodgers and everything else.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he did that all lined up. Jonathan, the thing was with the actual performance, I thought the second half we were far more intense. There was a sharpness to Celtic, and whatever it was at halftime, we're guessing. Obviously, we're having a wee joke about, and I think someone was saying, I think it was David Ferguson saying he was away for a Bovril at halftime. He just leaves Kilmarnock to it. Maybe that's the case. Who knows? But there was definitely a reaction, and that was all good, and it was a deserved win. I try and always on the bus. I try and break the seasons up into segments, Jonathan, like the wee mini leagues. Now, we've just had one since the World Cup break with a wee mini segment, Jonathan, a wee mini league. And remember, you obviously did the quote about we'll at least at Christmas be 9 points clear, if not more. Well, we've now went beyond Christmas. We've came out this league segment. We break up now for 2 weeks because it's going to be cup games.
Cup football,
Celtic's record remains, in that time was an unbeaten one. 2 drop points at Ibrox. I call it drop points. As far as I'm concerned, that's the way I see it. I think it is 2 drop points. I don't think they're any great shakes. But the 9-point gap that, we began this segment with is still very much intact. They've had as much of a manager bounce as they can. Didn't get me wrong. I mean, I think if it's a sunny day tomorrow, Michael Beale will be taking credit for it, Jonathan. Don't get me wrong on that. and by the way, guess who's taking the credit? Him himself. I've never known anyone like this. They're doing what I say. This guy loves himself. Honestly, Jonathan. Oh, holy moly. It's unbelievable what I'm seeing for this guy.
He's probably got a picture of himself up beside the king in the changing rooms.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. He's definitely got a crown in the house anyway. But we've came out of it unscathed relatively. Our gap is still intact. Yes, nitpicking. We'd rather it was extended. But the 9-point gap's still there, Jonathan. You were very, very hopeful that would be the case going over Christmas. Well, we're now into the new year. It's now 2 different cups that we enter into competition of in the next few weeks. So there's a wee bit of a break from league duty. 9-point gap. I take it you're still as confident as ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I said, I think it could actually end up being increased more because Celtic have a large number of home games coming up. Certainly got more home games than away to play in the next few weeks when the league does recommence. So I cannot see Celtic dropping points at home. I'm not sure if we've lost a home league game under Postecoglou. In fact, I'm pretty sure we haven't. And even the amount that we've drawn has been very slim. You could probably count them on one hand, because even going right back to the start, when things weren't looking so great for Postecoglou when he first came in the door, Celtic were still winning games at home and still winning them quite often, quite convincingly, even when there was question marks over the away form. And now that, everything's kind of came together over the last 18 months, Celtic are a juggernaut at home. They kind of actually remind me a little bit of, I know his name's a bit taboo now, but Martin O'Neill and his home form at
He's a
Celtic.
bit taboo.
But his home form is very similar to Meslick O'Neill.
I tell you what, Jonathan, the wee fella's on fire now, because he's getting interviewed by a plant pot to then interviewing my hero. And this guy's all over the place these days, mate. I don't know what games he's playing.
Yeah, well, he's going from one side of the scale right to the other, isn't he? So we'll see how that works out. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people interested in seeing both of those interviews.
Ooh,
but yeah,
can't wait.
But yeah, going back to Martin O'Neill, I think you looked at the home form he had domestically. I don't think he lost a home league game until about his third or fourth season.
His first season, Dundee. Remember, he lost his last two home games at the end of the first season.
But he put together a 76. He put together a 76 game unbeaten run at home. Must have been after those two before Aberdeen, I think it was, stopped him in 2004. So he's already proven. Postecoglou must have put together quite a run of home games domestically that he hasn't lost. I don't know what the numbers are, but he's looking very ominous. Celtic at home. I don't think teams enjoy coming to Celtic Park. In fact, not many teams have came close to really beating us at home under Postecoglou. Our nearest rivals have been spanked on a couple of occasions, when they've came to Celtic Park. So for me, looking at it, if you've got home games coming up, I can't see anything other than 3 points in those games. Looking at our rivals, you're looking at them and you're seeing a lot of interesting decisions, shall we say, going their way. As Brown Warriors pointed out, the 76 games, and I think it was, that's for Martin O'Neill, wasn't it? So, when you're looking at Rangers, they've benefited a lot from certain decisions that I'm not so sure would have necessarily went our way if they'd involved us completely. I'm not convinced, if I'm being completely honest, not because I'm really one that believes in conspiracies or anything like that, but you're looking at the statistics and there is question marks over them without a doubt. That if Rangers are the only team that haven't conceded a penalty, there has to be some reasoning behind that, because there's certainly been ample opportunity over the past couple of weeks to award, a couple at least against them. And for me, they are kind of toiling and they're getting results, but they're getting results based in part down to favourable refereeing decisions. I can't see that lasting. I can't see that lasting over the course of the next couple of months, because form is temporary, class is permanent.
He's nailed it! He's nailed it! I love that.
And I think it's almost certain that I think by the next time Celtic play Rangers at Celtic Park, I would actually expect that 9-point lead will be maybe 12 or more.
I get it. I get that. I'm confident as well. But Jonathan, right now, while they struggle to compete with us on the park, there's rumours rife right now in the old social media sphere. And by the way, as a Celtic channel, right, who profess to not being ITK, which we are not, right, at all.
No.
I mean, put our hands up. We never kid on with sources tell me. I'm not fucking like that, right? I hate all that nonsense, by the way. Hate it. But what I will say is, when you see stories, I think it's good juice to talk about on the channel. That's what we do, right? So we'll spend all day at work, and when your spare time, you're on social media, you read articles that go out, then we debate them at night. I've not got any other source than that, right? I've not got, you know what I mean? Fucking, I don't know, Leila Abada's agent, phoning me going, by the way, boys, there's a mole in the camp. But why would it not be normal for us to talk about these rumours? Right now, the one that's going rife, Jonathan, is Rangers are going to, not only, and by the way, I think the Mickey Beale photo with the coaching staff behind him with the player, I think that is a Postecoglou production. I think a few other quips that he's given have been Postecoglou productions. I think he very much thinks everyone up here is simple and he's just going to copy a template and, masquerade it as his. But one thing that would be surprising would be if he really were to try and sign the same player that we've been heavily linked with and apparently bidded for unsuccessfully. So there's two takeaways on this debate. So it's Chogui's song. Chogui, yeah?
We're going to say, we're going to go with that. Cho, that sounds safe.
Let's sign Cho. So I spoke with Steve O'Mac yesterday and I was saying, look, see, as far as I'm concerned, if that's the guy Andrew's identified and we're looking at the price region that it's involved in, there's an excuse for this to going out and getting him. It's a case, Jonathan, of going out and getting the guy, right? If it's 2.2 million, 3 million, I don't really give a monkeys because that is honestly it's cheap for a team that considers itself a Champions League football club, right? And they want to have this guy competing for a first team jersey in a Champions League team. So let's get that one out the road. But the rumours now are Mickey Beale and co may well trying to compete with Celtic on this one. Now, I know what will happen. There'll be two sides to this now, right? People will jump down the bandwagon of, see, Peter Lawwell's back. It's because Lawwell's back. Suddenly, players are wanting out. There's contract negotiations stalling, and there's bidding, low-ball bids getting made by Celtic. And this doesn't all add up. And it all, takes you back to Lawwell's first time in situ. But the one thing I would say is, whatever these stories, whoever's creating them, there's two sides. If there is an element of truth in it, then okay. It's good that it's public because it might give us the jolt that we need to just go get it done, get it over the line.
Yep.
Secondly, it does tell you we are leading the way in terms of our scouting process right now, that naturally people are trying to sort of follow. I've seen Hearts have signed a guy from, is it Vissel Kobe? Is that apparently they've just signed a player on a long-term deal. So what we're doing is definitely creating waves among Scottish football because it's an affordable market, an unknown one to be tapped into. But one thing as well, if there is any truth in this, I don't think in terms of my cock's bigger than your situation, we can really afford Rangers to actually be taking players from under our nose, as it were. That wouldn't be the best look either when you're in a period right now, I feel, of both footballing and financial dominance.
Yeah, no, I would agree. You don't want Rangers taking players that we potentially have looked at. If there's truth to it, then Rangers are obviously looking at what we've done with the players we've brought in from the Asian markets already, and it would be an interesting one because it would seem as if they wouldn't be doing their own scouting and they're almost relying perversely on Celtic scouting networks and then trying to steal in and steal our targets, which I don't think makes a lot of sense as a transfer policy. It's a very risky way to go about your business, particularly when Celtic are the best team in Scotland. They are the ones that are in the box seat for further Champions League money, whether there's going to be question marks whether Rangers will indeed be part of the groups again next season, because they'll need to go through qualifiers, which, as we know all too well, are not a gimme by any stretch of the imagination. I think when I'm looking at it, I would be astonished if the rumour mill is true. If it was, it would be quite remarkable to me that Rangers are now going after Celtic targets. I'm not sure how well that would even sit with their fans in some ways if they're going after players purely because Celtic have identified them. I would say on the Lawwell situation, though, if Peter Lawwell is getting back involved in transfer business, which nobody knows, and people are obviously going to jump to conclusions one way or another. We knew this was going to happen in this window, and particularly if things didn't quite go the way that we wanted on
very quickly on that though. This was the risk Celtic chose to run because it doesn't actually matter if fans are accurate on Peter Lawwell's involvement or not. So don't, I know Steve-O's got a different view on me on this, but he's like, it's not fair to, and I take his point on board. It's not fair to do the battering of Peter Lawwell. Well, actually, there's also another side to it where you go, Celtic set themselves up for this by reappointing someone who's got that reputation where it wasn't necessary. So they've left themselves open wide to this sort of thinking, this sort of scrutiny.
Oh, I know, definitely. Celtic must have known this before they brought him in, because it was clear to me, it was clear to you, it was clear to every other Celtic supporter out there that if you bring Peter Lawwell back in, and the moment there's some sort of stalling on any transfer activity, or there's any hints of regression back to what Celtic were when he was last involved with the club, then people are going to start joining the dots, whether that's right or wrong. Now, hopefully, Lawwell isn't involved in the transfer business and he is taking a step back in his non-executive role, but nobody knows. Nobody knows what that job really entails. Nobody's any the wiser, as far as I'm concerned, as to what the fuck he's actually doing at the club.
He's the chairman, Jonathan. He's just called non-executive chairman,
Well, no,
but he's the only person with chairman in his title. So how could you have a club without a chairman? Just because he's called non-exec chairman, that was all to fool you.
That was all to soft. That was all to soften the blow a bit.
Come on, guys. Come on. It's embarrassing if folk... Like, if there's not another person with chairman in their job title at the club, then I'm going to guess the non-executive chairman might just be the chairman.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. But back to the actual point with the transfer business, I think if Rangers were legitimately looking at a Celtic target, I think that is something that would spur Lawwell on perhaps to get the deal done, because he would know then, I'm only talking ifs, buts, and maybes if he's even involved. But I think for somebody like Peter Lawwell, that would be a massive dent to his ego if he's involved in transfer business again, and then Rangers come in and swoop one from underneath him. I think if it was another club, he'd maybe be a little bit more keen or a little bit more happy to try and do a bit more negotiating. And if he loses out, he loses out. We've seen that happen many times in the past. I think when it comes to Rangers, though, I don't think he would be as keen on that. He knows the optics would look terrible from a Celtic point of view. If Celtic are linked with somebody and then they end up at Rangers because Celtic haven't been willing to pay the going rate and Rangers have, then that is going to look awfully, awfully poor on the club. And I don't think Peter Lawwell would let that happen, because he knows the dynamics of the Glasgow 2 all too well on that part.
I don't know.
I think so. I remember once he signed Scott Allen, remember, years ago.
Yeah, but this is 250 grand though, Jonathan.
Yeah, but we're only talking 2 or 3 million. You said it yourself. It's not a lot of money in today's
market. To him it is though.
To
him that's a lot though.
It's
again.
Yeah, well, I know there is the McGinn argument there as well, but Celtic have plenty of money in the coffers with, potentially an Champions League jackpot on the way. When they were negotiating with McGinn, that was in the summer, so they still had to play qualifiers that year under Rodgers. And, Peter Lawwell's thinking was always, wait till we get in the Champions League before we actually
qualified the last 2 years.
Oh, no, I'm not saying this is the right way of doing this, but his way of looking at it was, we only buy players if we're actually guaranteed to be at the main event in Europe. We don't buy them beforehand and gamble. That's how he's always looked at it. Whereas, I think at this moment in time, the betting man is all going to bet on Celtic to win this league, with us being so far in front. And as I say, having so many home games left to play, I think most people would be paying out on a Celtic win on the league title at this point. So I think there is that little bit of relaxation there. There is that extra Champions League windfall coming our way. And I would like to think, when it comes down to £2 or £3 million, particularly if Rangers were looking at him and Ange Postecoglou's identified him, if somebody like Peter Lawwell, or to be honest, anyone at the club was turning around and saying, oh, well, actually, I don't know about that, 2-3 million, let's try and heckle, let's go like 2.5 and see if we can get him and save ourselves 500 grand. I think that would be completely out of order from the club. I don't care who's making the transfer call. If Ange's identified him, Ange wants him, he's well within budget, then there's absolutely no reason why we'll do that. And that's a great comment that Marquis coming in with. For every fiver they spend, we'll spend £5.50 from Peter Hall. And that's probably about right. Maybe 50 pence
Marquis,
too much.
That is a belter, mate. That's great, Pat. For every fiver they spend, we'll spend £5.50. Quote Peter Lawwell. That you wouldn't put it past them. You wouldn't put it past them. Jonathan, we need to talk about another player. Talking about assets, and we're talking about spending money now. If we are all desperate for money, then Jonathan, we've got a £25 million right back. You know the one who took Brazil to school. The one who
not Tony Ralston.
the one who basically won the World Cup. We won display, even though we finished third, and he didn't even play in the third place player. The guy who's been murdered for us this season, as simple as the guy that was targeted in the Champions League, game in, game out. Now, me and Steve did touch on this yesterday. You actually look at the players that were playing left wing, left forward for the other teams, and you've got Vinicius Junior and Mudryk, you would be trying to get the ball to them anyway, no matter who the right back is. I take that on board, and I do. But I do still feel he went to left back at Ibrox, they targeted him. In fact, it was the most one-dimensional tactic ever. I know Mickey Beale's a visionary, and I know Pep Guardiola's got posters of him on his wall. But at the same time, it was effective, right? It was effective targeting Juranovic. The stories are today, from Messi levels to Monza, and it's looking like, again, this is. I'll go back to it. This is the channel. We're going to be talking about stories that are circulating, right? Not everyone's based on fact. I know that. I'm well aware of that. But we need to also need to, talk about the stories that are going on in football, because, we don't have any other sources letting us know any of these links, Jonathan. Right now, the rumour is loan to buy, £7 million. Monza, 15th in Serie A. The judge called it. He said he will be at an underwhelming club. He predicted a West Ham, I think it was, he was suggesting.
West Ham would have made sense, though. West Ham, at least, I could have kind of understood a West Ham if you're moving into the Premiership.
But Jonathan, let's get this right here. I'm going to take you back on a couple of Monday clubs we've had. So see, in the summer, we were speaking about links with Juranovic. And remember, we did a debate about who's leaking this story. Is it the player's agent? Is it the club trying to get a fee? Or is it the media mischief making?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then you fast forward, and before the World Cup, rumours had started circulating again. Then the World Cup happens, and naturally it goes nuts. But let's get a couple of things right here. The clubs that have been linked were fanciful. Let's be honest. Chelsea's, Manchester United's,
Atletico Madrid, Barcelona.
Atletico Madrid, the best defensive side in Europe, and Juranovic is joined. Okay, so maybe he's believed his own hype. Maybe those noises he's made. Let's say it was option number one that we went with in the summer. We debated all the options. Let's say it was the option that it was an agent linking the player to clubs, right? Let's say it was the agent, and he's went, we're going to feed the media with a couple of stories, right? Once those noises come to a guy like Postecoglou, see you later, mate. This is the thing. Folk are now all going, but why would he go to Monza? Well, here's his two options. Celtic's bench, because the future's now in the starting lineup in Alistair Johnston. Ralston's about to come back to finish, and to be honest, that's 50-50. Maybe 60-40 in Juranovic's favour under Ange. But from our eyes, 50-50 battle, right? And Alistair Johnston is far and away now on a 5-year deal going to be the number one right back. So you've got the bench, or you've got Monza. Take your pick, son.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I think it's
not Xavi on the phone, mate, but your agent's full of shite.
Well, I think he'd be in the stand when Ralston's back. I really do, because I think Postecoglou's already realised. I think he's checked out. I think Juranovic has decided he knows he needs to leave, and I think as he's at that point where he's expecting to be moving elsewhere, I think Postecoglou will be quite happy to stick him in the stands until such time as that transfer materialises, if he has Tony Ralston back fit. However, I probably expect Juranovic will be gone before that will actually come to light. And Monza was a bit surprising for me. I thought it would have ended up being something slightly bigger than.
Where's Jonathan? I have no idea what happened there. Hello?
Oh, hello. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I got kicked out there.
That's never ever happened before. Like, you disappeared. You disappeared, and it was just me.
I don't know what happened there. It was like a red card. I must have been going too hard on Juranovic.
I didn't even click a thing.
Juranovic hating has obviously got me kicked out.
Sorry, Joseph. Big Joseph the Gremlin.
He's obviously hiding in cyberspace, just trying to get rid of me because I said he's going on out in the stand.
The hand of look, my face even went red. I was like, what just happened there? I was left on my own, then I disappeared as well. Fuck knows, man.
Oh, who knows? Who knows? As I was saying, anyway, I think Juranovic will end up going. There's no doubt about that. I did expect it to be somewhere a bit bigger club-wise than Monza, and I think perhaps, as I was saying there, I perhaps bought into the hype slightly. I would say on this pod, and I know plenty of others on Twitter as well, haven't really been overly enamoured with Juranovic. I think he kind of splits the camp a lot with
Certainly
the Celtic fans.
Splits the camp here.
Yeah, I think he splits the camp even just on our pod. But, you're looking at it and you're thinking, Croatian internationals, we constantly get told as to why he should be starting games for the last 18 months. World Cup semi-finalist, on paper, and he did have a very good first season at the club. I don't think there's any disputing that. I would agree in the big games for Celtic this season, he's been found wanting. But then he does have a very big game in a showcase match at the World Cup. So I was a little bit underwhelmed by the fee as well. Although
why do you think the fee is that low, though? I think it's a release clause.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. I'm assuming there must be more to it than that being all that clubs are willing to offer, because that's now the second sort of fee we're hearing in and around that sort of region, which makes me think there might be a release clause in there as well, because I can't imagine he's upsetting that apple cart that much that Celtic are just like, fuck it, we need to get rid of him by any means necessary. Yeah. If it was like that, he wouldn't have played him at Ibrox. He would have played his natural fucking left back in that game and left Juranovic in the stands, if he was properly kicking the toys out the pram and wanting out that badly. So for me, that would point more towards the fact there is some sort of deal already in place that triggers Juranovic being allowed to leave for less than we thought, because people were thinking, 2025. No, we were having this discussion not that long ago. Now, we thought that was fanciful. But, I certainly thought 10 to 15 was gettable for him. And I think, most Celtic fans would have been expecting certainly more than 7 if we're looking at it objectively here based on, his calibre and, the opposition he's played against and, how well he did in that first season. And, he had a decent World Cup with Croatia as well, who did very well as a team. So for me, that would point towards there being some sort of release clause. Monza I'm surprised at that one, but it does seem to be gathering traction. And if Juranovic wants out, the replacement, as you say, has already been bought, and Alistair Johnson.
His bluff has been called. Let's just get this right here. Those noises that we were definitely talking about on the bus, and we never said it was from one source or the other. We speculated as to whether this is the media causing mischief, whether it was an agent trying to punt his player, or whether it was Celtic trying to drum up some interest. It now looks like either way, whatever it's been, it's not been Celtic pushing it, right? So we can rule that one out because we wouldn't signed the replacement if so. So now what's happened is Ange's called his bluff big time, and reality bites. Reality bites. I remember, I've spoken about it before. It's not because I feel sorry for myself, but I couldn't get monkeys. But the backlash I got for saying he was not a great player but a decent player was unknown to me on Twitter. I couldn't believe the amount of folk, and they're all changing their tune now, of course, which is great to see. I love that. I don't know what the Twitter demographic is of Celtic Twitter. They must be fucking 19 or something. Do you know what I mean? Because they change their mood. But they want to slag your hair and all that, Jonathan. When you go, he's a decent player, not a great player. Do you know what? This is the way I'll sum it up, Jonathan. And you can agree or disagree. I think £7 million, right, for Juranovic, a player that costs 2.6 million. His profit is bought as Alistair Johnson, and off he goes. I think it's a decent fee for a decent player.
And I think the fact that we've been able to get the right back in, and it makes a change. Having the actual replacement in the building before we sell, because quite often it ends up being the other way around. So I think that is a refreshing sign from Celtic as well. They've managed to do that. I would agree. Juranovic he's been fine for me. I thought he could command a slightly higher fee than £7 million. As I say, I don't think £7 million is a lot of money in the current market.
Okay, I'm going to pill you on that. Would you pay more than £7 million for Juranovic? As Celtic manager, if Celtic spent more than £7 million for Juranovic, Would that have been a good investment?
Well, yeah, you'd probably look at it and you wouldn't
You
be
wouldn't.
be
You
keen.
wouldn't.
You wouldn't be keen. You wouldn't be keen. No, but it's different from Celtic buying from clubs that are buying from us a lot of the time because we know this Monza team have a bit of money in the bank. I know we've got a bit of money. I know that's what you're going to probably say next. But I think when you're looking at some of the bigger leagues in the world, they are not shy on spending money. A lot of them.
But Jonathan, we go, Bernabei cost 3.75 million. I'd have expected more from him. But deep down, ask yourself this, ladies and gentlemen, would you spend from Celtic's budget more than 7 million for Josip Juranovic? I ask you that, and I genuinely don't think if you're telling the truth, hand on heart, I don't think there's many who would have Celtic spending £7 million on a player Juranovic's ability.
Well, your second biggest transfer signing at Celtic, if that was the case, him and Julian would be joint second highest after Eddie. So, yeah, it's a fair whack of money to be throwing. And I think about Celtic in that position, and they wouldn't do it. I think when Celtic are looking at selling, I think they were probably, if there isn't a release clause in there, I think they were hoping for an English club to come in. I think if Mark Kearney had been correct, and you had a West Ham coming in, 10 to 15 million pounds is literally the equivalent of 7 million to them anyway, and that's where you get that upsale value. And I think, well, obviously, if it's only Monza that's looking at it, Monza aren't exactly the same as West Ham or any of the other Premiership clubs in England in terms of the wealth of resources they have. So perhaps that's why the offer isn't as high. But if there's no interest from an English club, Russell, then somebody's just got to deal with what you're given. And if Monza's deal's the best deal on the table, then Celtic will take it.
Steve O'Mac comes in, he says, JJ is never a 7 million player to buy from our perspective. I agree. He says, much in the same way Julian wasn't either. Well, I know a wee bit more about the Julian deal, Steve-O, because I'm very good friends with I don't know if he still is, but the main British-based French journalist of Goal.com. I think they've got 3 million subs or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm his mate. And I got the lowdown on the Julian deal. Julian only had 12 months left on his contract when we paid 7 million for him. And he said that is unaffordable for Celtic if he didn't have 12 months left. He says he is, he'll rock it there. So, TK Boys say, it just happened to know a journal. back on everything I said earlier. Right?
But hang on, wait, we've got that French media coming in.
There's my Goal.com's journalist in my ear right now. But no, the Julian one, you'd be surprised. But yeah, I think this is the way I'm going to say it, Jonathan, right? And we'll go at sudden death after this. But we can't always have our cake and eat it. And see, at times we're fucking guilty of that. We want 25 million for Juranovic, but then we want to look at Bernabei and go, 3.75 million. That's quite an outlay for us, We can't have it both ways. We're going to need to make our mind up what size of club we are at some point. And yes, bringing a player into Scotland, we will try and bring in value for money. Absolutely. But you can't also go that quickly. Like, players are worth 5, 6, 7 times what you buy for them in 18 months. We need to get a wee bit real with it. And my honest opinion, as I say, is we would not pay £7 million for Josip Juranovic if he was available at that price today.
No, I don't think we'd pay that at all. I think, as I say, Celtic were hoping that one of those clubs that we were talking about, a few weeks ago, those fanciful clubs, somebody, probably not at that elite level, but somebody in one of those elite leagues was going to come in. It was a mid-table in one of them that would quite happily just chuck 10, 15 million pounds because it's like not even making a dent in their budget. They were like 7 million, 10 million. It's the same difference to a lot of those clubs. And I think Celtic were hoping for something like that if there wasn't a release clause in play. It's not happened. The player wants out. The replacement's been bought. So we're going to have to deal at 7 million as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. Tommy Bolton comes in. Thank you for jumping on the Boyce'S bus, mate. Good to have you on, Tommy. He says, Russell, you've been down on selling Giakoumakis and buying a World Cup star for 3. That ain't quite true, Tommy. That's not quite been my narrative. My narrative, Tommy, has been, I think Cho needs to be signed regardless of whether Giakoumakis leaves or not. I think we need 3 strikers going for that role. In an ideal world, Giakoumakis is one of those 3. The reason I've resigned myself to Giakoumakis leaving is my hunch is he doesn't fit whatever it is Ange's looking for. He may not have been a Postecoglou production. He may have been a player recommended to him that was available at the time, and Ange went, top scorer there, Eredivisie, with the Adams Apples. And he's went, I'll take him for that price whilst he's there, right? But at no point, Tommy, am I advocating selling Giakoumakis to replace him with a 3 million striker. And my ideal scenario, and I've been pretty vocal about this, is only way forward for a club that's about to compete in the Champions League. And we want to call ourselves a Champions League club again, Tommy, don't we? My only way of seeing that is 3 strikers. Chris is saying Maeda is third choice striker for Ange. That ain't good enough for me. I want 3 strikers. Cho would be coming in to complement the 2 we've already got. However, if Ange has made his mind up on Giakoumakis, that's fine. I would like 2 strikers brought in January, not one coming in for 3 million to replace Chaos. Nah, not for me.
No. I think if Giakoumakis goes, which is looking like he may well do, although I did think he actually looked a lot more like his old self when he played.
Because he was given half an hour.
Yeah, and perhaps that was mainly what it was down to, is because he hasn't had enough game time as he would like, which I think is a very fair argument from his point of view. If he's wanting a better contract, then again he's probably got the argument based on that second half of last season. You've got to bear in mind, Giakoumakis was I think he was the only Celtic player to score in the Champions League groups, because the other game was an own goal, wasn't it? So Jota scored one, but there wasn't many Celtic players that scored in the Champions League. But Giakoumakis was one of the few that did manage to actually score a goal in that. So I think if we can find a way to keep Giakoumakis, that is in everyone's best interest.
Chris asked a great question. How many minutes do you expect a third choice striker to get if Giakoumakis is struggling to get game time? Well, Chris, this is the double-edged sword, big man. This is the point, because my hunch is Giakoumakis isn't, I'll say it again, a Postecoglou production, and therefore maybe isn't getting as fair a crack of the whip as what 3 players that are very much signed in his mould would get. I think that's the difference. I think that's what the difference is, Chris. I don't think it's as one-dimensional as he only can see Kyogo and he's blinkered by Kyogo. I think if he had other options that were in his psyche, in his mould, I think they would get a fairer amount of game time, Jonathan. I think if Kyogo goes 3-4 game droughts, he doesn't get persisted with if it's a Cho or whoever else. Ange is identified as being the striking competition.
Do you think it comes down to the personality of the player in some ways, Russell? Because it wouldn't surprise me if Giakoumakis might be a little bit more of a maverick, perhaps. I just wonder if Ange maybe looks at it and thinks, he doesn't quite fit. Cause he talks quite a lot when he identifies players in terms of them fitting a certain personality for him, as well as also having the ability there. And I just wonder, there's nothing really that strikes me that Giakoumakis doesn't possess the personality that Postecoglou looks for. But there's something there, and I don't know if it's maybe something about his character, perhaps that we don't really see on the pitch, but perhaps it's more on the training field that perhaps just doesn't sit right with Ange, because there's no doubt the player has more than enough ability to play for us. I find it quite confusing he's not in more minutes this season, to be honest. It's probably one of the great mysteries around the club this season.
I think it's a great point. I have got a hunch, Jono, right, that Ange has got an ego. Folk don't like to say it, right? I don't always think this is a bad thing, by the way. I think managers' egos tend to be good managers. But one of maybe his weaknesses, maybe, I'm nitpicking here, but maybe he doesn't like all that much having mavericks in the team that might go do their own thing and might become cult heroes. He likes students. He likes his players to be very much under his command. And Giakoumakis is maybe from a different sort of branch of the tree than the type of player he likes to operate with.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Giakoumakis is the type that will probably challenge him perhaps a lot more and question some of the decisions he's making, perhaps more than, a Kyogo may well do. I think Kyogo's perhaps somebody that'll be like, you've not picked me, well, I'm just going to work twice as hard next week. Whereas Giakoumakis might go, well, wait the fucking now, I scored a hat-trick or whatever the week before, and then you've put me on the bench, and he'll kick up a bit more of a fuss about that and ask the question as to why he's not starting. And perhaps that is what it boils down to, is there is some sort of difference in personalities there. And as I say, I go back to it, Postecoglou has said many times when he's identifying players, he's very much just as big on their character as he is on their ability.
Yes.
And for me, Giakoumakis' ability cannot be questioned. So that automatically leads me down the route that there's something about his personality or character that doesn't sit well with Postecoglou, and that's why he doesn't get as many minutes when Kyogo's fit.
Yeah. I agree with that. Paul Dykes says clash of the Greeks. David Ferguson, that's why he signed so many Japanese players, Russell. It's the attitude that he loves. I take that point, David. I think that's definitely becoming quite apparent that he likes guys that are going to be very much, on page, Jonathan, what he's trying to get across. And Mavericks might not all be his thing unless they are of an exceptional ability as opposed to a good ability. Anyway, it's time to bring in the Dark Lord himself, Phil McGinley.
Here he comes.
The Dark Lord, my goodness. Oh,
God, he's getting
guys.
very sore, Phil. He's getting very sore after losing the last 4 weeks. Don't take it
I did
personally,
okay
mate.
on nostalgia, by the way, big boy. Just so you know,
Was that the Sutton one? I never, sorry, not the Sutton one, the Strachan one. I think I got them all, but I've not actually listened to it back.
Of course you did.
I've not got the Arsenal. I've not got the answers in front of me, but I think I got all of them without even checking, Russell, to be fair. It's quite a straightforward question. I'm glad you did well on that one, though.
Thanks, mate.
Love this chat talk. At the start, that was fantastic, that opening monologue, Jonathan. You've definitely got the momentum right now.
It's like my rock promo, Phil. I thought you'd appreciate it.
It was a good one, because once upon a time, you may remember there was a game in the SPL between Motherwell and Hibs that ended 6-6. Hibs were 6-2 up in that game. Motherwell got it back to 6 apiece.
Oh, so you're saying Russell's Hibs?
Does that mean that Russell's Hibs it? Not for me to say, but the
Jukovic,
parallels are there, so it's time.
That volley, Jonathan's volley wasn't as good as that.
Can Russell weather the storm here? Because it is 6 apiece on the old Sutton Dev scoreboard. So let's get all the aesthetics set up, guys, and set the mood.
Just like the Dark Lord would. Just like the Dark Lord would. Of course. Phil's coming on to dig out the channel. Do you know what I mean? With a quiz, I'm just getting him pelters. He needs a pay rise.
Well, comments off, guys, as normal.
Yeah, mine are off.
Mine are off now.
So your new tactic, though, isn't it, Russell? Just attack the quizmaster when things aren't going your way.
Also,
I've seen it all before.
It works for Josie.
There's a new aesthetic tonight as well, Russell. When you're calling me the Dark Lord, that's quite ironic because on the 7th day, the Lord said, "Let there be light," and there was light because you told me to try and get a ring light for the being on camera. So
you're looking good, mate. You're looking good, mate.
Yeah,
I know that's a big difference.
Professional podcaster
I'll
now, all that stuff.
Just send me the invoice. I'll pay for that.
Oh.
No worries. I promise I will. That's all good.
We'll solid, but I've got the ring light arrived today, so
it looks great.
It does look good.
Yeah, it's a bit.
It's a more consistent light than using.
There we go. That's a wee bit better. And of course, the last thing I need is the music. So I found it quite ironic we call me the Dark Lord there at the start. I was like, you see my new light?
Lord's now under the light. Aye. Come on. I'm fucking ready this time.
Guys, can you hear me okay over the music? Is it
not so great yet.
Yep. Speak again.
Try it now.
That's
better now.
Yeah, I always find whenever we use the sound effects on the show, if somebody talks at the same time it starts for the first 5 seconds,
it's how it falls.
So you need to give it a moment to configure itself. Okay, right.
Come on.
Tonight's question.
History is about to be made, Russell. TikTok.
So I know the answer already, but I need to ask. I know, Jonathan, you're going to go first, aren't you? Yes.
I'm going first. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Today's question, I think you're going to want to strangle me after this. I'm going to be honest, because there's a lot of caveats to this one. A lot of caveats here. Okay.
Have you got a pen and paper? Oh, wow, you've gone professional. He's panicking now.
No.
So tonight's question, guys, is tonight I'm looking for the name of any Celtic player who's had a first name that begins with the same letter as their surname. Now, for clarity, be aware of prefixes in the surname, as the first letter of the prefix is what I am counting. Also, when it comes to double barrel hyphenated surnames, it'll be the first letter of the full thing, not the first letter after the hyphen. And also, be aware of any players we might have gave nicknames to that might give you a bit of a deception that they did have the same first letter as their surname. It's from 2000 to present day.
So,
Struggling already.
Yeah.
So,
Have you got?
yeah.
I'll give you some moment to clarify, because there's a few
So
caveats
just
to this.
so
Is it full name? Sorry, so is it
Full
going to be
name,
their
yeah,
full,
first name and surname.
full first name?
first name and surname, but if the wee middle bit matches, then it's okay.
Yeah, there's certain types of names out there. I had to go and do a bit of research on this to make sure that they would count in a surname, and it turns out, in the regional dialect that these guys come from, it does. So I need to conclude that. Yeah, keep an eye out for hyphenated surnames and nicknames we might have given players that would give the impression that their names begin with the same letter. Okay, so just be aware of that. So there's a few caveats to this one. So I'll give you a bit of time to think before you get started. But if you're ready, Jonathan, go with the first one.
Oh God, I'm already struggling. The one I was thinking of, I'm pretty sure it's not even his first name, so I don't even think I can use him. So I'm gonna have to think of somebody else. I've got one. Scott Sinclair.
Scott Sinclair, of course, is correct. S. All right. Yep.
And any era. No,
From
just go
2000
right.
to present day.
2000 onwards.
Oh, from 2000, of course it is.
Yeah.
Dion Dublin.
Yeah.
Oh, very
Dion
good.
Dublin.
Very
Yes,
good. You remembered
indeed.
that from that nostalgia. Very clever. Oh, I'm struggling on this. Yuri Yarosek.
Yeah, the Yarosek is correct. Spot on, Jonathan.
Josip Juranovic.
I would have been surprised if you didn't get him given the chat.
Yeah. No, that'd have been silly if I'd missed him, aye. Cameron Carter Vickers.
I did say I'll take the first letter before the. So, yep, I'll take it. Right.
Georgios
There's,
Giakoumakis.
Georgios Giakoumakis, yes, indeed. That'd be another one I would have been stunned if you didn't get, given he's been quite topical recently.
Yeah, I was. Who else?
Oh, come on.
It's hard.
It's a hard
Yeah, I
one.
know it's hard, but that's the whole point of the fucking quiz, mate. Do you know what I mean? No, it's hard. Oh, it's hard, Phil. You know it's hard.
Fraser Foster.
Yeah, Fraser Foster, correct.
Zheng Ji.
Zheng Ji, yes.
Oh, that's really good.
Zheng Ji. The fifth shot as well, this one.
Yes, it's sudden death already.
Oh,
Oh. I'm struggling. Ah. How many of them is that? That bloody seems like
Oh,
a hard
shut
game.
up.
I'll tell you the number how many I've got left on my list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 left, but three of them are guys that were just listed on the Wikipedia pages in the first team. I don't think they played first team games, but the other 6 definitely did play first team games.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, this is
struggling.
tense. This is tense.
I'm really struggling.
I'll check in and see what the viewers are saying just now as they watch.
Yes.
Right, I'll need to.
I'm gonna have to guess. I don't think this is right. I'm gonna just guess because I've had enough. Bobo
Okay.
Balde.
That's not his first name. That's what I was saying
Yeah, I
about the
didn't think so.
nicknames.
I didn't think
his
so.
full name is like Dian Bobo, D-I-A-N. Bobo.
I thought that.
That's what I said in
didn't-
the
I
caveat
didn't
at the
know
start. Be aware
I
of
got
guys
one.
with nicknames.
I got one.
Bastards.
I got one. Stefan Skepovic. Come on!
Oh, wow.
Skepovic is correct. Yes, indeed. Stefan Skepovic.
Ooh. Just when he thought he was back in.
Yeah, just pulled a wee bit ahead
Wow.
again, so it was up to 7-6. But that was an intense game, and that was a really, really tough
That was a
question.
great question
But
again.
do
That
you
was a
want to
very
know
hard
the ones that
question.
you didn't get? And this will explain why the double barrel surnames count. Because do you know that Bolingoli's second name is actually a double barreled name? It's Bolingoli and Mbombo. So if he
Mbombo,
counts,
yes.
then Cameron Carter Vickers should count. In that case, because we're going by the hyphenated name. Albion Ajeti,
Oh, yeah, of course.
the greatest signing Ronnie Dyler ever made. Carlton Cole.
Oh, Carlton Cole, yeah.
Now, I said something in the caveats about the prefixes in names, and those are very much regional to countries like Holland and Belgium. So Doris De Vries, because his surname is De Vries, and Virgil van
Van
Dijk.
Dijk.
Oh, how did we miss him?
I was thinking of him at the start, and then, to be honest, I still wasn't sure if I could
Now,
use
the
him.
three ones that, if you had got this, I probably would have gave you the win automatically, were all three guys that were in the first team but never got
Go
a
for
game
it.
or not much. Milan
Give me a clue for one.
Remember Milan Masoon?
Milan Masood. That's who I was thinking of. Like second, third guess was Milan Masood and Milan.
Is that
and
because
then-
Yarisic gets said by any chance? The Czech
That
thing,
might have
maybe?
been it. But yes,
Okay.
Milan Masood. Go give me a clue for another one.
Well, the other one is also MM. In fact, both of them are MM, the two that are left. The initials.
Michael
Yeah.
McGovern?
Yes, Michael McGovern,
No,
who was one of our
pardon.
goalkeepers in like the 2000s. Yep.
Yeah, I don't think he ever played either, did he?
Oh.
No, I don't know.
The other one's Michael McGlinchey, who did get a game or
Oh,
two here and
man.
there under Draken, maybe, but yeah, didn't play too much. But yeah, overall, tough question. You just came through it though. But yeah, Russell extends it to 7-6 just now, but it's
I had
definitely game on.
had to let him win because he was getting
You're not letting me
his
do
pen in his
anything, mate.
paper. Yeah, he had his
You've-
wee pen in his paper. I didn't
not
realise
letting
we
me
were
do-
writing things down, Russell.
You've not let me do anything, mate. I let you back in. You've never let.
No.
Never will. You'll never do anything. Just
You're-
remember
you're
that.
just-
It's 7-6, mate.
I didn't
You
know we
just-
were bringing pen and paper to this.
Talk
Russell,
to me
but
when you're
that's fine.
ahead. Just talk to me when you get ahead. Talk to me when you take the lead, and then we'll have this debate. Talk to me when you take the lead. Because right now it's over again.
Yeah,
Still a
I
long
don't
way
know
to go.
about that. It's not over at all. It's not
It's
over till it's
done.
over.
Honestly, I'm watching a guy crumble. He got level, and he's crumbling again. He's
Well, you-
crumbling again. And I'm sorry for you, mate. I actually feel bad because my wee brother should be protecting you. But get it right round you, mate. Honestly, that's all I can
It's
say.
all right. It's all right. I'll come back from this. I try and do it with
Yeah,
my
you'll
head.
get level
I don't
again.
write things down. I don't write things down like you do because I just try and think of answers.
Let them
Like
fight
you're
it.
supposed to do in
Leave
this
them
game.
to it.
You're supposed to think.
Because I've wrote down 2 letters, Jonathan. Oh, come on. You're literally clutching at straws. But listen, it was a good game. Well played.
It was
That was a good
close. It was close, but we'll recover. Plenty of time yet.
I mean, you've came
My
back to
day's
4
coming.
behind already in this series, Jonathan, so there's still a long, long
My
way
day's
to go,
my
so
day's coming. My
Yeah.
day's coming.
people are enjoying the sibling argument going on here. Ryan Taylor's got the popcorn out. I'll just leave them to it, guys, This is what you get on a Monday night. Good stuff. But yeah, there you go. Another sudden death on the books.
I love it.
Yes,
I
that
love
was a good question, though, Phil. I did enjoy the question.
It was a good question, to be fair. It was
Aye.
very good. Monty could be right, though. Michelle McManus would have been an answer, yes.
I didn't think of
Monty
her
also
random like
put
that.
in- Monty
Even,
also put in Offie Ambrose, and I was like, that's actually quite clever.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought of Chris Commons, but he's a K, isn't he? That's
K.
a K, Chris.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
gay, aye.
He was, yes, he was.
Mhm.
KC. Bit
Yeah.
like the Hull Stadium used to be called the KC Stadium, Jonathan, just for a wee bit of background knowledge there. Anyway, we will leave it there. We'll do a bus stop tomorrow night, Phil. We'll do a bus stop tomorrow
Sure.
night because we like to catch up each week and Obviously, there's loads happening elsewhere, mate. I'm sure we can have a wee nibble at. And then Wednesday, there'll be the breakfast bar with Johnny Loke, who's always chirpy on a Wednesday morning. David might join us as well, hopefully, if available. Thursday, we'll have the TNF, as always. Friday, Nostalgia. I know you're kind of...
I'm glad you asked, because here's what it is.
Ooh! That was quick.
There you go. Neil Lennon's first season in charge. There you are.
Oh, fuck, I'm in.
That
season I loved. I loved that
team. A lot to talk about there, because obviously it was a bit of rock and roll football. Obviously, we saw the dark side of Scottish football, what happened.
A lot of controversy that year.
Yes, we definitely need to dive into that.
Fuck off. Nothing wrong with that.
Oh, no.
There's, not even just that. There's the Hearts attack at Tynecastle, I'm pretty sure, that season as well. There's a lot going on.
Things coming through the post to Mr. Lennon. A lot of the newer generation fans forget about what Neil Lennon went through and stuff like that.
Of course, it's a case for the defence, big time. But that first season as well, if I remember right, was the introduction. I would say anyway, the introduction of Just Can't Get Enough.
It was
becoming like the tune. I remember being in a taxi with my mate and his family. He's of Indian descent, and it was like his 4 cousins, and we had a black cab in the West End. I mean, like physically shaking to Just Can't Get Enough. Like after that 3-0 win. That 3-0 win was so. I can't wait for this. Friday, get popcorn. Get the popcorn out. I look forward to that one, big time, Phil. Saturday, I have declared I will do a fan cam live. If anyone wants to watch the game from 5:30 on Viaplay, of course, I will be watching it as well, and we'll do it together, and then we'll do post-match push with Terry. Then we'll have the Sunday blether all over again. So lots to look forward to on the bus this week. Cheers, lads. I've enjoyed that.
No worries.
Yeah, it's been great.
Right, take it easy, mate. Like, listen, didn't cry into your pillow. Good night, everyone.
That's all right. I'll be fine.
Comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.